The theory I think summarizes the situation most succinctly is the Gorge is the door to hell, and we're standing guard at the gate.
Some films thrive on spectacle, while others grip you with suspense and mystery. The Gorge, a new Apple TV original film, does both. Directed by Scott Derrickson, known for Doctor Strange, Black Phone, and Sinister, it stars Miles Teller and Anya Taylor-Joy as elite operatives stationed on opposite sides of a classified gorge. As they guard against an unseen apocalyptic threat, an unexpected romance blooms between them, deepening the stakes of their mission. Blending sci-fi, action, and a love story against an intense high-stakes backdrop, The Gorge offers something unique. But does Derrickson's latest live up to his past successes? Let's break it all down: story, cast, production, and ultimately whether this film is worth your time. The Gorge, directed by Scott Derrickson, is a genre-bending creature feature that draws inspiration from a variety of sources, including classic horror films and video games. Derrickson, known for his work on Doctor Strange and the Black Phone, has cited the 1977 Italian horror classic Suspiria as a key influence on the film's atmospheric tension and visual style. The film's creation was also heavily inspired by the immersive worlds and mechanics of video games, particularly the Dark Souls series and Shadow of the Colossus, which influenced its sense of scale, environmental storytelling, and the daunting presence of its creatures. Derrickson aimed to blend these elements into a unique cinematic experience, combining psychological horror with action-adventure. The project came to life after Derrickson stepped away from Marvel, allowing him to explore darker, more personal storytelling. The script, co-written by Derrickson and C. Robert Cargill, evolved from their shared love of genre films and their desire to create something both terrifying and emotionally resonant. Thankfully, with the success of Black Phone and its sequel, this film was able to see the light. The film follows our two leads who venture into a mysterious gorge in search of a way out. As they descend deeper into the gorge, they encounter increasingly bizarre and deadly creatures, each more terrifying than the last. The gorge itself is almost a character in the story, with its shifting landscape and eerie atmosphere creating a sense of constant unease. Derrickson describes the film as a blend of survival horror and existential dread, with the characters forced to confront not only the physical dangers of the gorge, but also their own inner demons. The creatures they face are designed in a way that echoes movies such as Invasion of the Body Snatchers, but also draws on European folk horror. With influences ranging from Kong Skull Island to Black Sabbath to Titanic, this movie is a blend of a wide variety of genres, and if you're familiar with them, it's an interesting aspect of the film. As for casting, there's only really 3 relevant characters, with 1 or 2 on the side to round it out. People have gone on to say that this is one of those low-budget films that was made during COVID. While that is true, the actors involved in this are all incredibly talented and pull it together incredibly well. Anya Taylor-Joy has had a wonderful 5-year run, starting all the way back in 2020 with The Queen's Gambit and recently coming off of 2024's Mad Max Furiosa. She plays Drasa and successfully duos between a somber, competent assassin and a vulnerable love interest. On the other hand, our male lead is played by Miles Teller. His early career had ups and downs, with a particularly sour note being him playing Richard Reed in the 2015 Fantastic Four movie. While some people enjoy his performance, the films he were in just simply did not do well. He managed to return in Top Gun Maverick, and since then his career has had a little bit of a resurgence. Here he really takes on the lead well, and while another talented actor may have been able to do this, he captures the subtle side of his otherwise completely stoic character well. In this film, Sigourney Weaver plays the head of an evil corporation. Even though her time on screen is short, she of course is the queen of sci-fi and at her age plays this role very well. The side cast includes Chopay Dirasu as JD and William Houston as Ericas. While both of these are side characters, they have important scenes within the story that build upon the world or directly relate to our characters. Audience reception to the film has been pretty well. While no one is going out of their way to say the film is a classic or a masterpiece, it's a refreshing piece of media, especially in the streaming landscape. In my opinion, it feels a lot like a script for a really good video game from the mid-2000s. If you think about it from that lens, you can literally imagine the level design or scenes from this movie in that game. At the same time, the romance aspects have an unbelievable chemistry between our two leads. This is a genre blend film that just so happens to cross over with a lot of pieces of media I enjoy, as well as the characters being relatable and the actors being involved with some of my favorite movies, past and present. That is enough for me to just enjoy the movie, probably even if it was bad. However, the fact that it blends it together seamlessly and has moments where it peaks over that glass ceiling makes it safe to say that it will probably be one of my favorite films of the year. I think if any of the listed influences sound good to you, you'll more or less find this an enjoyable watch. So I would definitely recommend you go out of your way to watch it if you get the chance. For the rest of the video there will be spoilers, so if you haven't seen it, go watch it and come back. The Gorge centers on Levi, Kane, and Drasa, two elite snipers assigned to guard opposite sides of a treacherous gorge, facing isolation and deadly creatures called the Hollow Men. Levi, a former Marine, and Drasa, a Russian operative, begin their mission with little more than professionalism, but their isolation leads to a quiet growing connection. Their sniper competition and increasingly frequent communication reveal two people who, despite the mission's bleakness, find solace in each other's presence, turning their survival into something more intimate than expected. It's an atypical romance grounded in a mutual respect as well as survival. The plot thickens as the two uncover the Gorge's dark secret, a bioweapons lab abandoned after World War II, where cross-mutated lifeforms now roam. Levi and Drasa's partnership becomes more than just survival as they face not only the Hollow Men, but also the corruption of a private defense corporation, Dark Lake. The film's climax, where they trigger a failsafe to neutralize the threat, leaves them separated by a nuclear blast, with Drasa believing Levi is dead until she finds his final poem, titled She Collapsed the Night. This is the moment where they mature past being isolated operatives to having a shared purpose. The ending brings a quiet, hopeful reunion in France where Levi's survival is confirmed through a letter he wrote, encapsulating their entire journey. While the film is full of references and tropes from its inspirations, it has a completely different feel than them due to its blend of genre. You don't really get whiplash, going from a frightening body horror monstrosity to a happy ending in France. The film does not overstay its welcome in any of these realms and instead aims to provide commentary here and there, but ultimately just serves as an overall entertaining and endearing film. Drasa was the character I enjoyed the most in the film. She's coming from the Soviet bloc and was raised not to be burdened by the feelings of guilt her job brings. So as she is left to her own devices and is allotted some degree of freedom, it naturally makes sense that she would enjoy things such as punk music or dancing. There's also this reality that someone across from her that is able to write messages on signs is possibly the closest she's gotten to another human being outside of her father. Levi has smaller moments that make you feel for him, but he is a bit more mature and is able to compartmentalize his task and job. He's found a coping mechanism through poetry and reading that Drasa has not really found. So my favorite moments of the film are definitely the dancing scene between the two and their initial interaction where she tries to get him to loosen up and they have the shooting contest. There's something really sad about Drasa putting the bottle on her head as well. It is fair enough to assume the other guy's a skilled enough shot to pull it off, but the callous nature of her towards her own existence and habit of drinking are very depressive. Her being vulnerable and getting Levi out of his shell to the point where he literally shoots a rocket launcher to visit her is a very fun ride. Technically, I think this movie is fairly impressive for what it is. The areas where you think there would be CGI, there's actually very little. They built the entire thing on a soundstage, so the actors were actually in a jeep moving upwards while doing the acrobatic fighting. Anya Taylor-Joy herself said that she even got a little banged up doing some of these demanding sequences. The model for the jeep that they made was being, quote, way too small, and ended up being quite demanding for them to work around. For such a self-contained movie, there's an actual impressive amount of different sets and pieces involved, particularly during the action. As I said, there are a lot of references and ideas borrowed from other films in this. My favorite is an interaction between Drasa and Levi. While they are flirting back and forth, there is a montage, and in that montage they are doing chess, which is a callback to Queen's Gambit, and the next scene they are drumming, which is a callback to Whiplash. None of it is done in a remember this way, instead it's more of a seamless treat for fans of the respective actors. The Gorge definitely feels like the script for a great video game with its intense, immersive world and thrilling action sequences. The romantic chemistry between Anya Taylor-Joy and Miles Teller is a standout, adding depth to the story without overwhelming it. As someone who's been following Teller's career since Top Gun Maverick, I was really impressed by his performance here, and Taylor-Joy continues to show why she's one of my favorite actresses. I'm also definitely interested to see what Scott Derrickson does next. While this film might not make the waves of a major blockbuster, it's one that will stick with me for a long time. I'd recommend it to anyone, it's definitely worth a watch. Now with all that being said, I'm curious what you guys have to say. Did you find the film as enjoyable as I did? If not, what was your main issue with the film? If you really wanted a more serious aspect to some of the sci-fi or corporate aspects, I can understand why you might be more critical. Would you be open to seeing more films do the style that is very reminiscent of the 2000s? Be sure to let us know in the comments down below. Thanks for making it until the end of the video. be sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. Here at Inner Spiral, we aim to cover the games, shows, and movies we all love. So be sure to join us, and I'll see you next time in the Spiral.